Hello, unlockers. Question for you. How many of you have had problems either at the moment or in the past with a manager, somebody that line manages you in the workplace? I'm guessing it's more than just a handful of you. Now, today we're going to look at some top tips for managing the manager and also what we need from a manager and what are common problems that we encounter when dealing with managers. Now, the first thing to consider, I think the word manager is quite a poor phrase, and I much prefer the word leader. Managers shouldn't really be managing, they should be leading. And the second thing to remember is that a lot of managers shouldn't really be managing people or leading people. Often they've been promoted from a role within the team where they've been very, very good and they've been promoted to the next level up without any training on how to manage people, without any attributes or skills on how to manage people. So a lot of them shouldn't really be doing that role, and they may not be very comfortable in that role. So what we hear is a lot of common complaints is that there's a general lack of ADHD awareness, or just a general awareness, even with neurotypicals, of how people express themselves in the best way in the workplace and how managers can get the best out of them. So there's a lack of awareness about how people work in general, and definitely a real lack of awareness on ADHD. The other thing is that there's a real culture in this country, particularly, I think, and in a lot of institutions, and you're seeing with a lot of vertical industries as well, I see it in a lot with schools and teachers, that often there's a lack of appreciation and recognition for the staff and the employees and the team that are going above and beyond. There's this culture that if somehow we praise or appreciate the people that are working for us, then, you know, they'll start slacking, or they'll take an inch or start taking sick days, or they won't be as productive, which is really, really strange, because it's one of the key things that all humans need. And us with ADHD, because of our rejection sensitivity, probably need a bit more appreciation and recognition. There's also a lack of kind of co-creation between the manager and the team, teamwork, collaboration, no consistency of support. So sometimes they can seem quite supportive and at other times be absent or unavailable or not give the same level of support. Communication can be poor. Often managers can be busy. They won't communicate clearly what they need from you or communicate deadlines clearly. People get frustrated with dealing with inefficiencies in the workplace, and particularly us with ADHD, we can see what needs to change in order to make a workplace or a system more efficient or to work better. And the frustration when we can't change that or people won't listen, you know, is incredible and can really be demotivating in the workplace. So, and they may be unable to deal with inefficiencies above them. And the weak managers won't push for change. So you could be frustrated with a manager that is equally as frustrated with you with the culture in the workplace or inefficiencies, but won't raise their head above the parapet in order to do something about it. And another common problem is lack of boundaries. So your boss ringing you at the weekend or emailing you or asking for things, sending emails late at night. So there's a lack of boundaries there with your personal time. So what do we need as ADHDers from our managers? We do need them to communicate clearly. We really do need that, because sometimes we may not have listened, we may have different processing styles. So if we're unclear, we need to go back to them. They need to understand our strengths and challenges. That goes not just for ADHDers, but for neurotypical people as well. A good leader will understand the strengths and challenges of their team and work with them to realize their strengths and support their challenges. Positive reinforcement, we need a lot of that because of our rejection sensitivity. We get very demotivated if we don't think we're doing a good job and people are only picking out the faults. That doesn't just apply to us, that applies to everybody, but more so with us. We do need teamwork and collaboration and to feel like our manager is on our side. We need context, we need clarity from our manager about what we're doing. And above all, we need autonomy and trust and respect. We need them to believe in us and know that we're going to do a good job, and not micromanagers. Give us the opportunities to use our strengths, and also give us the opportunities to grow and to learn and to develop. That's what a good leader does. But it's worth thinking, can my manager actually help this? Because we tend to go, oh, this should be this, this should be that. And actually, that can be very difficult. Managing people is a skill. Are they masking? There's this culture that you need to put on this persona of being strict and gruff and stern in order to be a good manager, so that your staff, you know, don't take the mickey and come in late, etc., or slack off. And I think that's a really poor attitude. But they might think that they need to be this way in order to gain respect. And I see this a lot, sometimes with women who think, I need to be taken seriously because of the patriarchy, and women are not taken as seriously in the workplace as men. So they feel the need to behave in a certain masked way in order to gain respect. And often they get that wrong. That's not their fault. That's the fault of the system. They've just applied it in the wrong way. Have they had any training in management? Have they got their own stuff going on? Are they neurodiverse themselves and are masking that they're really struggling to break down what they need you to do and to manage a team, but they're just going about it in the wrong way so that they don't get found out? So we do know from some of our ADHD members who do manage people that this has been the case. So it's worth thinking, look, this isn't your fault. This is about them and not you. If they are a poor leader, that is not your fault. That is something within them, either structurally, culturally, lack of training, or they just don't have the skills, and management is not right for them. But the way to deal with it, and this is what you should look at, make sure your tank is topped up and that you've got enough sleep and that you're not hungry and that you're not stressed, and that you're really working on your self-care so that you're not losing it. And we have heard of an ADHDer that did headbutt their boss before they were medicated. We don't recommend that. Make sure you look after yourself before you get to the point where you're wanting to headbutt your boss. So that is a no-no. Unlockers. We need you to be assertive, but not in that way, not violent. So be assertive when you're talking to your manager. Say, look, I can't, I'll find it difficult to meet that deadline, but I can do it by Tuesday. Or you've asked me to do this, which was a priority. Now you want me to do this. Can we sit down for 5 minutes and reprioritize if this is no longer the main priority? Because in order to get this finished to the standard that we require, so use we, then I will need more time to work on this and I cannot take on this project. So be assertive, be factual, stick to those facts and not emotions or feelings. I cannot do this. Use phrases like we. What will we do? How can we reprioritize so this deadline is different? How can we work together? Because this is not possible to do to the standard that we require. And have clearly communicated boundaries as well about outside of work hours. So if they're expecting you to answer emails late in the evening or on a weekend, you just have to say, in order to top up my tank and replenish so that I'm refreshed to do the job that I need to do during the hours that I'm here or I'm in the workplace, I don't answer emails beyond a certain time or over the weekends, but I will get to it first thing in the morning. So be very clear about when you'll get to it and when you will and won't answer emails. This is about boundaries and assertiveness. And if your boss, your manager, they're unlikely to be a leader, otherwise you wouldn't be having these problems, are difficult, practice those conversations. But at the end of the day, if you've set your boundaries, you've been assertive, you've done all you can, you've got the outside help, you've communicated your ADHD, you've understood what you need, what accommodations you need, and yet even without support, maybe from HR, occupational health, the workplace is still toxic, it's not worth your mental health. It may be worth considering a change of job and a change of environment to get away. So don't be afraid of making radical changes for the sake of your mental health. Now, there's lots we can do in the workplace to give ourselves a sense of autonomy and purpose. And we're looking at finding purpose next week. And I'll just give you a little hint. It may not be just one purpose that we find. So do join us next week for finding purpose. But in the meantime, have a think about your own assertiveness, your own boundaries, your own worth. And don't believe it's all down to you. It's mostly about them. So have a great day and go and top up your tank. And we will see you next week for finding purpose.